Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I heard that the walking boot was really in right now, so if you notice, you'll see it right here. Jeff, I am so excited to speak with you tonight, and let's just dive right in.
How's everyone today, this evening? Everybody excited? Come on. You have Alex here who had an accident skateboarding, doing a double, triple, what was it?
Triple axle?
Triple axle.
Skating.
Right. And
Broke
you
my
didn't
leg.
fall.
It just broke magically.
And you were able to maintain your balance while you were eating ice cream.
Yes.
Amazing.
And I won an award,
Isn't
medal.
that amazing?
Yeah. So today's theme is fashion is creating a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats on 20 years
Thank
for
you.
Sean John.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
What does the word legacy mean to you?
Obviously, it's something that you carry forward, but I think what's important about the word legacy is something that it was meaningful at the moment and meaningful carrying forward, and it also had it was something that someone cherished, and it was the momentum of it, and it was something that you really was able to sustain for a long time, and it goes forward with the future.
And what do you want Sean John's legacy to be? Is that even something that you think about or you have thought about?
No, we don't really think about the legacy. We think about how we do business going forward. We think about how do we think outside the box and what's next. But we had some amazing moments that I will always cherish, and I think will be part of history forever, because it wasn't expected what we did.
Exactly. So what are some of those moments, some of those things that stick out in your mind as game-changing moments over the last 20 years?
Just time spent with Diddy, which is those moments that are amazing. But the first fashion show in 1998, when we coined the word fashiontainment, which was combining what Puff was great at, which was entertaining, and fashion, which is fashiontainment, and the diamonds and the furs and the things that we were able to do, from doing the first fashion show that was $600,000 to the last fashion show that was $1.8 million for 17 minutes. But it was just some of those things, some of those moments that were just outstanding. The CFDA award, 2 Fifi awards, being one of the largest brands at Macy's, launching at Bloomingdale's on 59th Street. And then the 20th anniversary, which we celebrated last year, which was, a collaboration with Jean-Michel Basquiat, which was amazing, to a collaboration with the Gallery T-shirts, to going back to Bloomingdale's again, to the largest billboard in Times Square one time. So we had a lot of moments that was really pretty exciting, and we'll continue to have those moments every day.
So you mentioned fashiontainment. And you said that, the brand really exists at the intersection of culture, entertainment, and fashion. Do you feel like in order to succeed these days, do brands need to do that? Do they need to kind of be lifestyle rather than just fashion?
I think the word lifestyle is used very lightly. I think every young designer, as soon as they come out the box, they say, I want to build a lifestyle brand. But what does that really mean? I think it's important that times have changed on how the consumer shops now. Digital is very important. Entertainment is very important. And why do I need that brand is very important. No longer can you just design a sweatshirt and think people are going to buy it. But you have to be able to entertain. You have to cultivate. You have to understand the consumer needs and what motivates them. There's a new way of marketing now. And so we think of all of those things. It's not as easy as it used to be developing a lifestyle brand. We focus on that particular style. We focus on our brand DNA, and we focus on who our consumer is that we've had for 20 years and how do we continue to grow that consumer. And we don't try to veer from that consumer. We stick with that consumer. And there might be a certain items or a certain delivery or a certain month that we might say, let's try something new for a new consumer, but we know our core consumer and who he is.
And what about politics? Last year you collaborated with Pierre Moss for bringing back Vote or Die.
Right.
And you added a little bit of an addition, which was for real this time. I'm curious, what prompted that, and why bring it back last year?
Vote or Die was a movement in 2008, which Puff created And it was a moment that we all need to take very seriously at the time. And it was really, his moment was, let's make a real statement of vote or die. And everybody was like, but die, Puff? Really? If we don't vote, we're going to die? Like, really? And it was a real statement. And it was needed. So what happened with that was that we brought it back again 2 years ago at Bloomingdale's and was very successful. And Pierre Moss, interesting story, when I met him, he reminded me in 2008, I gave him his first scholarship when I was part of BRAG, Black Retail Action Group. So we gave him a $30,000 Sean John scholarship, which started his business. So things come full circle that he comes to me and says, let's do a collaboration on Vote or Die. And it was exciting to work with him, and we'll continue to work with him. We're going to do another run of Vote or Die T-shirts next year. Collaborating with a lot of different people, a lot of editors, as well as retail stores that we're going to do. And this is going to be bigger this time.
Do you feel
Because we really have to vote or die this time.
Yes.
For real.
Yep.
Right?
Speaking of today's events.
Yeah.
So do you feel like brands have any responsibility to be politically active or socially active?
Tough question. I think that each company has to identify what their point of view needs to be in the political world. At the time, Puff wanted to make a statement, and he made a very strong statement. And most companies that are in the fashion industry might not be able to make such a strong statement. So I think you have to identify and figure out what statement you want to make and what is your purpose, first of all, and why you're making that statement. We didn't make that statement to sell T-shirts. We made this statement because you really need to pay attention to the actions that's happening in the world today.
Mm-hmm. And congrats on being honored as Fashion Master from the Black Fashion World Foundation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That's this Saturday, I think. This Saturday night at Alvin Alley, right? Which I'm pretty excited about.
And so I'm kind of wondering. There's obviously a systemic issue of diversity and inclusion within the fashion industry. You're in a really unique spot as probably one of the only African American CEOs. So within the industry right now, what are some of the challenges that we're really facing when it comes to diversity and inclusion?
That means I can't have lunch with anyone in my same color. True story. It's important, but I think diversity is happening in a different way. I don't think diversity I shouldn't say need to be. I think it's happening in a different way in fashion. I think there's a lot of influencers of color, people of color that are influencers. I think the digital world has shown it. I think social media has shown it that there's a lot of people of color that's making statements in fashion and don't necessarily need a boardroom to do that. They don't necessarily need approval from a company to do that. They're doing it on their own with a phone, and they're making some really strong statements, and I like that direction. So we need to applaud those people of color who are doing that and taking a stance on that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Do you feel like there's also, though, this sort of antiquated way, within the industry of the majority of people who maybe are, I think you've mentioned that there's an issue of access, right? So how do we, and so now we have all influencers and, through social media that are making a difference.
Right.
But is it translating into sales, for example?
I think absolutely it is.
Yeah.
It's translating into sales. I mean, everyone here follows social media, and you can see what's happening with people of color that are getting major contracts with companies to sponsor or to put their voice out there and to validate a product. There's always a need for more diversity, not just of people of color, but women as well. And I think you're going to start to see that. You're starting to see this in Hollywood in a big way. Where on the sets of certain movies and TV, there's only women. And I think you're going to start seeing it. Is it happening quick enough? Absolutely not. But there is a movement that's happening, and hopefully it will continue. But I also think there's, organizations like this, the one I'm being honored with Saturday, as well as BRAG, Black Retail Action Groups, is giving a voice and an opportunity of people of color to be involved and to really be engaged in the fashion industry and make a difference. But I also think we need to start, the way I was taught this business was I really wanted to be a designer at first, and then someone pulled my coat and said, well, to really make money, you really got to know the business of it. And that's the direction I sort of took. Do I know how to design? Of course, I know product, but I really wanted to learn the business of it. And I think that that's one of the things I would love to see more of in the diversity, is learning the business of it versus wanting to be a designer.
Yeah, and with that, you have so much power as the CEO. And I'm curious, within the company itself, within Sean John, are there any initiatives that Sean John is doing to kind of increase diversity, especially on the business side?
Yeah, well, you could just watch everything we do is diverse people of
Sure.
color. One of our biggest statements we made was in 2008, where we used every model, 37 models were of color. And then obviously, we got negative of why would they do that? What does that mean? Does it mean that white models don't matter? And then a year later, 6 months later, Versace used all black models. It was like, oh my God, Versace used all black models. But it's important because, but also, our customer is of us.
Yeah.
So.
And
it is that.
so I think it's especially impactful, like
Right.
when you've been really outspoken about
Right.
obviously the need, not just in the company,
Right.
but also in the industry. So I think
course.
it's always really impactful when someone at the top is,
Right.
is really like doing it,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's what really impacts
Right,
change.
Right. But I think it's important that, and I want to be clear, diversity doesn't mean that just because you're of color, you should get the job. You have to have talent and skills and be prepared for that job as well. And we try to find the best people for the role.
Well, and connections too help. So
Yeah, of
through
course.
organizations like Bragg,
Right,
which
through organization.
yeah.
And Pierre Moss is a perfect example. Giving him this first scholarship to get his business started through Bragg was a perfect example. And now he has his own company doing great fashion shows all over the world, and he's got a nice little business. So it's good.
And you've also said that it's really important to bring you with you,
Right.
which is great.
You just have all my lines.
Yes.
Huh?
And I'm curious, have you always done that for real?
Yeah. I've been very outspoken. And I think that a lot of times I meet people and a lot of people say their first name and they're very quiet. I introduce my entire name. I say who I am.
Jeff Tweedy.
I make sure in the room you know who I am. And that's what I mean by bring you with you. And we don't do that. If you want to be noticed in this world or be part of the fashion industry, how do you do that? There's so many people want to be in the fashion industry, but you have to bring it forward. You have to. Because otherwise the quiet one doesn't get fed.
Yeah, and that can be really
So-
tough, especially I think for people of color or
Anyone. I mean, you have to be proud about what you do in your craft and your talents and your skills and be excited about who you are in this world. You have to. Life is too short not to be excited about who you are in this world.
And so what's next? You talked about at the beginning. You're kind of always looking forward versus backwards. And so what is next? What is 2020 for Sean John?
Interesting. We'll continue to look at our international market. We're about to ink a major deal with e-com to do women's for the first time.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Which I'm excited about. And we're launching a new fragrance this year. And there's just always things going on. We'll come back at the end of the year and do a lot of collaborative things with other people as well, other designers. And we'll just continue to grow our consumer.
When you look for collaborations, are there?
And we really don't. And when you say what's next for the next year, I don't really look at a 3-year plan and say, what, next March we're going to do this. It's really with the team. I have a great team, and we sit in the room and we talk about what we look like the next 6 months and the next 6 months. Because planning out 3 years is very difficult in this climate.
Sure.
It's almost impossible.
Because things are changing.
Always changing.
Constantly.
Always changing.
Great. Well, I'm sure you are all ready for some drinks.
Thank you, guys.
Some snacks.
Thanks,
so
everyone.
round of applause for Jeff.
Thank you.